Hi, everyone. I'm Kara Sunthun. Let's take a look at what was happening in Connecticut today in history. 1 year ago, the governor announced the state's supermax prison, Northern Correctional in Summers, would close. Sharon Johnson reports.
Northern Correctional Institution opened in 1995, but a lot has changed since then. One big thing that's changed is a decrease in the population. At its height, Northern housed 510 people. Today, it houses 65.
It's extremely expensive, and it seems like it has outlived its usefulness given our current situation.
Finances are one of several reasons the state says it's closing Northern Correctional Institution. The state says closing Northern will help them save $12.6 million in annual operating cost.
The incarcerated population is at historic lows. It had a very, very low occupancy rate. There was no real reason to keep it open any longer.
Another reason the state has its lowest incarcerated population since 1989. Crime has also decreased by 31% over the last decade. Criminal justice professor Mike Lawler says the drop in crime could be attributed to community policing and intelligence, technology, sorting high and low risk offenders, and behavior modification.
We found out interventions that are effective with certain types of people. So people who have mental illness or are homeless or have substance abuse issues.
Northern Correctional Institution housed inmates on death row before capital punishment was abolished in 2015. The state says the closure of the facility will not result in layoffs, and staff members will be deployed to other facilities. The Connecticut State Prison Employees Union is concerned about the closure. Today, the president said in a statement, in part, "We're concerned that closing Northern will cause overcrowding, lead to more positive test results, and limit the agency's ability to quarantine. The state and the DOC should think about repurposing Northern instead of shuttering it." And the DOC commissioner says they plan on closing one more prison before the end of 2021. Reporting in Summers tonight, Sharon Johnson, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
5 years ago, Governor Lamont announced a budget that wouldn't raise taxes but would cost cities and towns more. Susan Raff reported.
My budget leaves $75 million in year one and $84 million the following year.
But it's money that won't be there that will hurt some cities and towns.
That we hear about a vision and we're going to be in this together. What he means is you're going to pay my bills.
For the first time, the governor's budget asked municipalities to pick up part of the tab for teachers' pensions. His plan would also let cities and towns generate some revenue by taxing hospitals, but they would lose some pilot money in return. That's money towns get for properties they can't tax. That could help cities like Hartford that have a large number of tax-exempt properties.
On net, it represents a significant increase in revenue to the city of Hartford.
The Connecticut Hospital Association says previous taxes have resulted in big cuts. They say the hospital tax has increased costs for patients and caused the loss of thousands of healthcare jobs. In last year's budget, the governor used layoffs to balance the budget. 1,200 notices went out to state workers. This time, with budget problems even larger, he's looking at bigger numbers. Without $700 million in concessions, he's looking for possibly more than 4,000 layoffs.
It's huge, and for then, after you've said you want $700 million, or there could be layoffs, and then to say, oh, but let's give them a round of applause.
What scares the heck out of me is 4,200 layoffs. Those are people that are really crucial to our economy. If it was a private employer and they're talking about 4,200 layoffs, we'd be doing backflips to do something to fix it.
10 years ago, there was a shakeup at the East Haven Police Department after several officers were facing federal charges for harassing Latinos.
I think you can get them through that transition period of the unknown.
Eyewitness News worked sources all morning and was the first to report former Stamford Police Chief Brent Larrabee will temporarily run the East Haven Police Department while the town searches for a permanent chief. 3 of East Haven's officers and a sergeant are up on federal charges for harassing, beating up, and intimidating Latinos. Eyewitness News was the first to report former Chief Leonard Gallo retired suddenly after their arrests.
To your police officers on the street, it's the unknown. They're not included in the day-to-day operations of these problems, so they're going to look for leadership and guidance.
Larrabee was Stamford's chief from 2005 through 2010. Prior to that, he ran the department in Framingham, Massachusetts. He now works as a consultant for a company that helps advise police departments.
He comes from Framingham, Mass., which has a large Latino population, just as Stamford does. and just as East Haven does. I mean, so I don't think there's going to be no learning curve involved.
That's a look at today in Connecticut history.